You got a friend in me. When the road gets rough ahead and you're miles and miles from your nice warm bed, you guys remember what your old pal said, 'cause you got a friend in me. Boop, ba-doop, ba-doop.
All right, everybody. Well, the conversation has gotten weird already several times, thanks to none other than.
Don't blame it on me.
But it's true, though.
It's your fault.
I'll take the blame.
Welcome. We hope that this podcast finds you well, finds you in a place where you know that the Lord loves you. And if you are not there, that by the end of this podcast, you will find some joy in the silliness of four silly people who love Jesus, but also that you would find that the Lord loves you and the Lord has an abundant life for you when you follow him. So with that being said, I want to share a few announcements with you, make sure you know kind of what's happening youth ministry-wise. So we have on Tuesdays, it's kind of our first thing of the week, we will be releasing our youth podcast at 7 o'clock. It'll premiere live, so we'll engage with you if you want to comment that you're there, or we'll have discussion questions, things like that. You can comment in the comment section, and we'll be there to engage with you. And then on Wednesday, we will release our live youth worship service. Andrew leads us in worship. I'll teach a Bible lesson, and we'll also have a prayer time. And then on Thursdays, we do youth Zoom lunch, which this last Thursday we made grilled cheese. Well, wait, I made grilled cheese, and y'all didn't.
I had a peanut butter sandwich.
I ate grilled cheese afterwards.
That's true. But I'll come up with some silly thing to make for lunch, and those who want to make it can make it, and those who don't have to. And then, but it's really just a hangout time, just to get together and visit. So be looking for that. That's Thursdays at 12 on Zoom. Friday, you'll get contacted by one of our youth volunteers. And then Sunday, we have our 11 o'clock worship service on Facebook, YouTube. And then at 5 o'clock, we have our youth Bible study on Zoom. So lots of things going on. We understand that you can't participate in all those things. Maybe you can participate in all those things. I would love that. That would be super cool. But pick out one or two things and stay plugged in. I think that's a really important thing that we need to be doing during this time. It's really easy to kind of unplug from people because we can't see them, because we can't spend time with them. And these are some ways that we can stay plugged in with people, but also, and most importantly, you can stay plugged into Christ, because really this is kind of a time where you can grow exponentially in your faith, or you can sort of deteriorate exponentially in your faith if you're not investing and if you're not putting in the sort of the elbow grease to spend time with the Lord. The Lord's always there, but sometimes we, decide not to use that time wisely. And so this podcast is one of those things that we want to use to kind of encourage you to be investing in your faith. So we hope that it does that. We're going to go to a break. We'll throw a discussion question up there, and then when we get back, we'll play a game. So we'll see you in a little bit. All right, welcome back. We are going to play a Pictionary-ish game where one person is drawing and the other two people are guessing, and the category is people in the Bible. So, Andrew, are you ready? I'll hold your
ready.
mic for you. Ready, set, draw.
Is it Eve?
There's the beard.
There it is. There it is.
I thought it was a mushroom first. So he's he needs a comb over. The other one. Well, Samson has the long hair. Yeah, put your mic up.
I
They
actually
can't
have
hear
done it too. Peter.
Who else is?
Is it Peter?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. She got it. Sorry, I forgot which one I said to you. Yay, Peter.
Yay.
Petros.
Peter's swole, man.
Remember, there's the
He's a
story of him
fisherman.
like dragging the fish up onto the
Yeah.
shore all by himself. So it's like swole, and I was like, oh no, Samson. Forgot about that guy.
Oh,
What?
yeah. Yeah, but he doesn't have long flowing hair. He
That's
needs a
That's
comb
fair.
over.
I didn't.
Well, if you-
His
if you
long
turn
flowing
it,
comb over.
It like doesn't turn the picture.
What?
Ooh.
That is
Wow.
weird.
Hopefully that's on the recording.
Yeah, that would be great. Oh, it just finally turned. That's funny. Okay. If you hit undo a bunch of times, that will probably.
Yeah, there you go.
Bam. Okay, Jordan, are you ready?
I can hold your mic.
Thank you.
Ready? You can't see. Ah. All right, ready, set, and draw.
That's good
Yeah,
enough.
I can see. Jesus.
No.
Samson,
Delilah.
the ghost from it's- it looks like the ghost from Pac-Man.
Yeah.
Is it Winky? No, Winky's not a name. Pinky.
Samson.
I already. Is it Lazarus? Because he's a ghost.
Moses.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes. Moses has a staff.
I got fixated on the fact that he looks like a
It's
ghost.
Darth Maul.
Darth Maul. Oh my gosh. That's
what
really
what are the
funny.
ghosts from Pac-Man? Winky, Blinky, and Inky, or something like that.
And Clyde.
Oh,
Yeah, there's one that's not.
Clyde.
Okay.
Clyde. Oh, good to know. Did you forget who your character was?
Yes. Yes, I did.
It's not looking good for Dakota.
Oh, that's funny. All right, ready, set, draw.
Jesus.
Is that the beard?
Can't see the ear. You just
Is that the
started with the
beard?
beard?
Hush. I'm
Oh.
doing this with my
It's
right
a
hand.
longhorn.
All of our Bible characters are bearded and bald. Pretty much. That's where we are so far. Santa? Ooh, he has hair. A mohawk.
Oh.
Ooh, it's Elijah because he's starving in the wilderness.
Because he's skinny.
Okay, this is gonna give it away.
Uh-huh. What?
Noah.
Yeah.
I don't remember Noah.
I put 2 fingers. He's holding up 2.
Noah's
I
got
thought he was
a,
giving us
That's
the peace
awesome.
sign.
Noah's got a
Cool.
wicked mohawk going on.
Drawing with my right hand. Okay.
That is awesome. So all of my rules about like going slow and not giving it away were for Dakota because I was like, okay, you can't start drawing Noah with the boat. You got to draw Noah first, then draw the boat.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, great job,
well,
guys. That was
Stop the screen
exciting.
recording when I turned it off. So.
It's all good. It's all good.
It's fine.
Hopefully it didn't ruin it.
Well,
Hmm.
glad to grow everyone's Bible knowledge by figuring out what Peter, Noah, and Moses look like.
Yes. Those are accurate, historically accurate.
In like 10
We were
years
there.
from now, you're going to see our portraits of Bible characters in churches everywhere.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
That's right.
Forget these lifelike
Oh gosh,
Mm-hmm.
that's hilarious.
And then our
Okay.
signatures are gonna be our faces down in the bottom corner.
Just like the lifelike pictures, you're still going to need a nameplate at the bottom to know which Bible character.
I feel like
Sure,
mine's pretty
sure.
obvious.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
I mean, it could be Jonah.
It could be Jonah.
Jonah getting swallowed up by the big boat.
Oh my gosh. Well, this has devolved quite well. I think. I think it was a lot of fun. So hope you enjoyed it. Discuss this. Discuss this discussion question while we gather ourselves, and we'll be back for a somewhat serious discussion, perhaps, maybe. So we'll be back. We are back for our discussion, and just to give you a little bit of an idea of where this discussion came from, I talked to Melanie, I guess it was 2 weekends ago, something like that. We were talking about
A fortnight.
A fortnight, yeah, sure. I don't even know what a fortnight is.
I don't either.
It's 2 weeks.
Oh, 2 weeks?
So a fortnight.
It's
It was a fortnight.
now we can name this the Fortnite podcast.
Oh, please no.
I think we would get sued really quick.
We would get a lot of views initially.
Yeah.
That would be
It's like
good. But
there's
that's
1
it.
second views
And then a lot of disappointment.
Yeah.
because kids would want to be entertained.
True.
Segue.
Whoa. Whoa. Speaking of entertainment.
You were talking to Melanie a fortnight ago.
And we were talking about something that I have coveted for a while is a Nintendo Switch, and I have several friends that have one. I've played on them several times, and just thought they would be a lot of fun to have for the girls and for me, to be honest. So I started looking for them, and lo and behold, they're gone. Nobody has them. Like Dakota and I went to 5 pawn shops or 6?
6.
6 different pawn shops. And not a one Nintendo Switch or a camera tripod, which was the other thing that we were looking for. But
the actual thing. We were looking
that was
for.
the actual thing we were looking for. So I got online, like, surely we can buy it online from Best Buy, Target. Nope, sold out everywhere, like everywhere.
Did you check Nintendo's website?
I did, and they didn't have it. And they're selling for like $500 on Facebook Marketplace.
Right.
Because
people know what they got.
Yep. So anyways, it kind of led me down this rabbit hole of thinking about how, because obviously that's happened because of the quarantine, because of the virus and everybody staying at home and all that stuff. And it got me to thinking about how we as a society live very distracted. And it seems like when everybody had to slow down, instead of like, taking... And maybe people bought Nintendo Switches and they're doing some of these things, so I'm not trying to pigeonhole anybody, but it seems like the reason that you would purchase one of those is because you want to fill the extra time that you have. And I think that we can all agree that a Nintendo Switch at its core is a distraction from important things. It's a lot of fun, and like I know you and William use it to kind of play and bond together, and so there's some good qualities of it, but I have a hard time believing the entire world who bought Nintendo Switches when all this was going down was doing it so that they can hang out with their kids. So that leads me to the point of so we want to have this conversation about entertaining ourselves to distract ourselves from things that are important, but Nintendo Switches aren't the only thing. So what are some things that you can think of that people use to distract themselves from things that matter.
Any type of video consumption, that be YouTube or movies or cartoons or whatever.
Yeah.
Make sure I'm on that kind of consumption, because that's my go-to is video consumption.
Sure.
Because it's easy. I don't have to think about anything.
Mhm.
They do the thinking for me.
Be a vegetable.
Yeah.
Couch potato, to be exact.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one of mine. Like, I've said several times we're watching through the Marvel movies and all that stuff, and like, that's all when I'm not careful, and even when I am careful, that's all that I want to do when I get home. Instead of taking time to build my relationship with my wife and build my relationship with my kids, I want to go. I at least want to watch it with Melanie, but that's really about the only good thing that's coming out of it as far as relationship building. What are some other things that people use to distract themselves from people and things that are important?
I mean, I think it kind of goes along with videos and things like that, but social media pulls us away a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, it's easy to get sucked into a video vortex on Facebook or Instagram or
Absolutely.
something like that, and you just keep going and going and going with their new algorithm that you watch one video and then the next one just pops up and it keeps coming. But I think even just, Jacob, and we were joking with Jacob that one day that sometimes we just scroll through it. Like we're not even looking at it. We're just scrolling through it.
Yep.
We're not reading. We're not looking at anything. It's just scrolling past. And
Yep.
It's like we can, it's almost as if we put a screen in front of us. It turns our brains off.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that.
And it's like straight up numbness, at least in my life. Like it's not like I'm doing that so I can think about something else. It's like straight up not thinking.
Yep.
Yeah.
And not using my brain at all, which is kind of a scary thought. I need that thing to breathe and stuff.
Probably like chores, just doing stuff around the house to avoid the important things. Going out. Oh, I need to read the Bible. I'll go mow grass. I'll go do this. I'll go trim the bush or
I would
whatever.
gladly read my Bible over mowing the grass.
I mean,
I mowed the grass on Saturday. I mowed the grass on Saturday, and I turned on my Fitbit on exercise, and I literally have to walk like 5 miles to mow my front backyard.
Nice.
So I'll read the Bible.
I got a riding mower.
The point is still valid. Yes, that's definitely, I would mow the grass if I had riding
Especially
lawnmower.
if you have a zero turn.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest, It's fun.
Yeah, my grandpa's got one of those. I use that to mow the field out front.
Yeah, I think you're right, and to kind of add to what you're saying, I think as as adults we do that too. As far as like adult, do you feel like you're somewhere in the
Adult adjacent.
adult adjacent?
I'm an adult, but when I screw up, I need to find an adultier adult.
Adultish.
Well, I do too, so I'm right there with you.
You're what the Spanish call adultito, right? A little.
Yeah.
A little.
Little.
But truthfully, we have it's really easy to distract ourselves with work, and so for me, that's ministry things. It's really easy for me to spend an entire day, working like really good, productive. I have no reason to do anything at home, but I've got something nagging at my brain, and so I want to work on it at home instead of doing what I need to do, which is spend time with my family. And so I can totally relate to that, and just kind of tinkering around the house too. There's a lot of things that I think we can, little projects and things. I'm going to organize this, or I'm going to throw away a bunch of our extra junk, or whatever, and it keeps us from doing important things like investing in our relationship with the Lord. And stuff.
Well, and those things are like, watching TV, social networking, all of those. Like, I think we can all agree that in large dosages, those are bad. But I think like doing chores, doing things around the house, mowing the yard, fixing things, like it's like something good that we can use for evil. Almost.
Yes. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Absolutely.
I don't want to address. I think for me, like that's what I'm most guilty of. Like if I get upset, and Danielle can attest to this, when I get upset, I just start cleaning things, which I think she gets mad at me on purpose. Like, I need somebody to clean the house. I'm gonna go. No, I'm just kidding. But like, if I get upset, like if I get on my like last nerve with the kids, or something's going on and I'm frustrated, like I'll do dishes, I'll vacuum, I'll change air filters,
Yeah.
I'll mow the yard. Like
Mhm.
I do random
Mm-hmm.
tasks, and it's like this way I don't have to address the issue because I'm doing
Right.
something that's good.
Mm-hmm.
But as I read in, I think it was in John today, if you know what is good, or no, it was in James 4.
Mm.
If you know what is right to do and you don't do it, for you it's sin.
Yep.
And I think even though it's good things, we can turn it into
Yep.
sin because it's not the right thing.
Mm-hmm. And you're like, oh,
Yeah.
ouch. Yep, I totally do that. I definitely I either do those kind of things where I'm like picking up the house because there's always things to pick up: shoes, toys, socks, children, all kinds of things. Or I retreat to my phone. It's kind of one of the things I do. I have to be. Melanie can tell you about this cycle, and it's mildly hilarious and sad at the same time. But I like download a game on my phone, and I play it like religiously for about a week, and then I'm like, I'm an idiot, and I delete it on my phone, and then I don't have a game on my phone for another 2 weeks, and then I download another one, and she's Melanie. It's funny, Melanie's almost got the point. It's like, okay, well, this will be over in a week, But I do that whenever I'm stressed, frustrated, or whatever. I retreat to some sort of game that I can just play and sort of turn the world off. And so the interesting thing to me is that sometimes there's a good in that to kind of reset yourself. When I'm mad at my kids, I don't need to address them yet. I need to wait and slow down. But sometimes I slow down so much that I don't ever address it.
Yeah.
I just kind of sort of let it linger on until I forget about it or I don't want to do anything about it anymore. So one of the things that I thought of was that we talked about earlier is I think other relationships can do that sometimes too. So we can be so concerned about another friend or a coworker, or I don't know, fill in the blank, a significant other or whatever, that we are not investing in the relationships that are right in front of us. And I think we've kind of we have forgotten that the relationships with our parents, our brothers and sisters, our family, and for some people, totally recognize that your family life may not be great, but I bet you have people that are family to you, and that could be someone at the church that has kind of adopted you as their spiritual kid. It could be somebody in the community, but all of us kind of have those like really, really important people in our lives. And I dare say the ones that are older than us, I think we can convince ourselves that our friends are those people, and that's fine. But really, like our discussion last week, the generations that are not our own, it's really, really important that we have those relationships. But I think we distract ourselves from those because they're hard. And it's a whole lot easier to relate to somebody that's my age than to relate to somebody who is older or younger than me, i.e. parents and siblings. So I think that other relationships, and that kind of plays into social media and video gaming too, I think, because a lot of people now retreat to those things because of the relationships that they have with other people. So I think that that can definitely be a distraction. So the next question is, why do we do that? Why do we try to distract ourselves from things that matter?
I think the biggest thing is for me, like anything that causes anxiety or stress, or something that I just want to pretend doesn't exist. I can always find an excuse not to do it. Because the things that aren't a big deal, it's easy for me to do.
Yeah,
Like,
sure.
If it's, like my work at church, I have a to-do list of things that I do each week, whether it's planning music, sending an email, making a phone call, going to lunch with somebody. Like those are easy things to do because that's what I'm at work to do. But then there's other things like I need to make a doctor's appointment, or I've got to go take care of taxes, like things that cause stress and anxiety. I don't want to do that, so I'll just keep putting it off and putting it off and putting it off instead of doing it. And so I think it's kind of this like almost this human response within us to not take responsibility for things that are hard. And so we're like, I can just blame it on being distracted. And it's really this procrastination within us. I'll do it later because I'm going to do this now. And I think that's the biggest thing. And if it's hard, we push it off. If it's easy, we do it right away. And I think that goes even into our spiritual life. We need to choose to do the hard things and not just the easy things.
Right. Yeah, I can attest to the fact that that's like an innate human thing because I see it with Emmy. Emmy will say things like, I don't want to do that. It's hard. And my thing that I always say to her is, well, sometimes we have to do hard things, right? And so I have to tell myself that too, Brian. Sometimes you have to do hard things. Like you don't get to just do all the easy things. You have to do hard things too.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's worth noting too that what is hard to me might not be hard to Jordan, but what's hard to Jordan may be super easy and natural to me. And so there are those things too that you can't really you have to do self-evaluation, I guess, to figure those things out.
To add on to that, just with the anxiety and worrying, just worrying about screwing it up is a big thing for me because I put it off because I think I'm not good enough. I'm going to screw it up, so I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
That's especially in high school with schoolwork. I did that a lot.
Yeah. We're even doing it successfully and fearing what the outcome's going to be.
Yeah.
Like, I had, I guess it was pretty much right before Corona took over. I was having some heart palpitations and things like that, and I needed to go to the doctor, and I didn't want to go. I was like, I'll just wait a couple days for it to go away, and it didn't go away. And it's just more. Once you go to the doctor, and then he's like, you need to go to the cardiologist, and he recommended me to somebody, and they never called. I was like, well, they never called. I'm never gonna go. But then it's like, no, I need to go. I need to take care of this, and it's really just kind of this fear of ignorance is bliss. Like I don't want to find out. And I went in and they said everything is cool. I found out I have that weird arrhythmia thing that lots of people have, but they don't know that they have it, and so it's not anything serious. Which has encouraged me to be a little bit more healthy. I've been exercising, but it's that when something's out of our control, and we don't want to know what the outcome is, we're like, I'll just keep putting it off, because I'd rather just not know than, no news is good news kind of idea.
Yep. That's good.
Definitely. It's easier to shut down. It's easier to avoid those things. I find myself often shutting down or retreating to my escapes, my Switch or my computer, when I have to call somebody. I hate calling people. I hate it.
And she does it for her job.
I do it for my job.
But I bet I'd be willing to guess that it's easier to call when it's your job than when it's not.
It's different.
Is that right?
It's so different. I'll find myself giving myself lectures, like in the mirror. You can do this. Don't turn on Animal Crossing until you do this.
Yeah.
Don't do it. Because it's like, I actually made a commercial in film school about anxiety. And my whole theme was, it's like hearing the boss music, but not seeing the boss in video games. And that's it's easy to ignore the boss music when you're distracting yourself with things you like.
When you walk
Put
away
your
from the
headphones
TV.
It's fine. I mean, you guys already said it. I just wanted to
Yeah, I
add
like
that in
that.
there.
I like that analogy. I think that's pretty good. Yeah, I think that I think you're right. I think that the common theme is things that cause stress, anxiety, maybe even depression, things like that. And I think that we are putting off. And the interesting thing to me is that, and this isn't all the time. I mean, there's definitely some clinical depression issues and anxiety and things like that we definitely have to take seriously, and don't just they're not just reorganizing our lives. But at the same time, I think some of these things that we're avoiding, and we are going and mowing the yard, or we're going to the switch, or we're washing dishes, or we're going to a friend or social media or something, we are we're actually growing the anxiety rather than shutting it down. And it's one of the things that I love in life is whenever I finally do that hard thing that I have been meaning to do, and the freedom afterwards. Because it's at least to me, it's rarely, if ever, as bad as I think it's going to be. Whatever the outcome I think is going to happen. And I in the last probably, we'll say 4 years or so, I've had several like really, really hard conversations that I did not want to have. But then whenever I had them, it was like, wow, I'm not saying it was peachy, but it was okay.
Yeah.
And I don't feel like I have to retreat to anything because it's over. So I think that that's a testimony to the truth of what you're saying, is that it is anxiety, it is stress, it is depression that causes us to go to those things. And sort of the release valve of that anxiety and depression and stress is to do the thing that we don't want to do that's causing it, which is ironic in itself. So with that idea, how can we organize, how can we structure our lives in such a way that we are ready to combat these distractions, that we're ready to live without these rather than give in to them all the time? Because they're all the things that we've talked about: relationships, social media, doing chores, cleaning the house, all those things, they're all good things that we need to be doing.
Right.
So how do we organize our lives to where we can see when we're doing those things because sort of in their holy use versus their unholy use?
I think the first thing, at least for me, when I notice this pattern is I ask myself why. I get introspective. Why am I avoiding this thing? And I go to great lengths to understand how my brain functions as an individual, like a personality test or whatever. And then I sit down with my Bible, and it calms the waters. It makes everything still. And then I can tackle whatever it is I need to do to change behavior.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that self-evaluation is a super huge key, because once you have evaluated yourself, you can go to the scriptures to get the wisdom and guidance that you need. And of course, sometimes a lot of people see the Bible as an instruction manual or something. It's not a horrible description of some parts of it, but the Bible also just has this, I don't know, comforting quality to it, especially certain parts, the Psalms, Proverbs, I think the Gospels, and reading about what Jesus did and how he did it and why he did it, all those kind of things. It just kind of it sort of recenters your perspective.
Yeah. I mean, I'm with, I'm kind of with Jordan on. You need to know yourself. You need to have a healthy understanding of who you are and how you operate. Because I know for me, procrastination's a big thing. Because for my personality, I am very much like achievement. Like I want to see a tangible result for the thing that I've done.
Yeah.
And there's so many things that we do in life that you don't necessarily see an immediate tangible result, and so it's really difficult. So something that I've started doing in my day to day is I have started using like a legitimate planner, and each day for each week I have a to-do list, and I make a little box that I can check off when it's done.
Yep.
And it seems silly, but for me, like being able to check that box off and by the end of the week having all those things done, it makes me feel like I've accomplished something. Whereas before, without being able to check those things off, it's kind of like, well,
Yeah.
whatever. I didn't really achieve much. And so that helps me, but also just understanding what things help me reset and what things distract me.
Right. Yeah.
And so, like, when I'm at work, if I feel like I've gotten into that kind of like black hole of I'm tired of looking at a computer screen, I'm tired of doing this or that, like I'll pick up my guitar and play for a little bit, or I'll read a chapter of a book. And then there's kind of like an indefinite end to that, and then I can put it down and then get back to what I'm doing. Whereas if I like if I ever say I'm going to watch a YouTube video, it's done.
It's over.
Like
That's
there's nothing. I'm
Here
gonna
comes
check,
5 o'clock.
yeah, I'm
We're-
gonna check
we're
my
going home.
Facebook. I'm done.
Yeah.
Before I know it, it's it's 3:30 and I'm late to pick my son up from school.
Yeah.
It's and so I think it's really you have to have a healthy understanding of who you are, what you need. Some people don't want a to-do list. That causes anxiety. But I think knowing what to do and how to do it, and what can I do when I feel like I'm overwhelmed. What can I do that I know I'm only going to sit down for like 10, 15 minutes
Right.
and not 30 minutes to 5 hours.
Right.
And I think that's important.
Yeah, I think one thing that I would like to add to what you're saying that I've noticed in my life is that the things that reset generally send my mind in a Godward direction. The things that are a distraction send me in the numbness direction. One of the ones that I feel like is a little bit outside of that category is video games, because I think video games can be something that are relational, or that it's just kind of it's a fun thing that you do by yourself, but then you talk about it with other people, that kind of deal.
Kind of it flirts with the line a little bit.
Yeah, right. And so that one, so there are those things. Social media is like that, where you kind of have to be really careful. So for me, like I pretty much know social media. If I'm checking it too much, I'm trying to numb my brain. There isn't anything holy about it. There's anything good about it. But so I think that's an evaluation technique that I've had to use for me is where does it send me?
Yeah.
Because if I'm finding peace in God, usually it's that 10 or 15 minutes. And I'm, okay, God's got me. We're all right. We're good. We can move along. What you got?
They pretty much covered what I was going to say, to be introspective, know who you are,
Yeah.
know what you're going to do when you do these things. Because specifically, if I sit down to play a video game, it's going to be a couple hours, probably, depending on what it is. Mainly Fallout 4. I've been playing that a lot recently, and I'll sit on it like 7 o'clock. I'm going to play for, till 10, I guess, or something, and then go to bed. Next thing I know, it's 3 a.m.
I need some eggs and bacon.
I'm not tired yet.
Yeah.
And
It's
so
that blue
just-
light. You need to get you some blue light glasses.
I have them. I wear them.
They are trendy, too. I like them. Legit.
But just know what you do to distract yourself, and
Yeah.
not don't do it, but know when you're doing it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I think that's huge. Know when you're doing it. That's especially with something like video games, because you can be playing a video game just for pure fun,
Yeah.
and then you could be playing it because you're not dealing with something that you need to deal with.
Well, and it's, I think ultimately it comes down to what the staff have been talking about in our First Peter study. That that part of chapter 1 that talks about prepare your minds for action, being sober minded.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's we go about so many things in life just cruising on autopilot and not really engaged mentally in what's happening. And I think as believers, I think that's the importance of having a quiet time in the morning. I think that's why Jesus
Absolutely.
spent so much time after an emotional or physically tiring event. He would go spend time with the Lord to reset and say, okay, is my mind in the right space, or am I going to go veg out on something?
Right.
And I think we need to be in that mind space like Dakota said. Like it's not bad to do it, but it's bad when you don't know that you're doing it. Like
Right.
when you are
Mm-hmm.
when you're sitting there just scrolling
Mm-hmm.
through Facebook and you're not reading anything, that's a bad place to be. But
Yeah.
if you're getting on like, I want to see what so-and-so's doing, or and you're limiting your time, you have a purpose and there's an
Mhm.
end point to that. But the danger is when we get sucked into that void of, we're not sober-minded anymore. We're kind of drunk with distractions. And that's when the devil kind of comes in and says, okay, now you're doing absolutely nothing. And this
Right.
is where I want you.
Mhm. And he's going to fill that numbness with something.
Yeah.
The enemy, he takes that numbness, that blank mind, and says, why don't you fill it with this? Or why don't you fill it with that? Or why don't you
Right.
fill it with this? Yeah, I think that's huge. So what I'm hearing is self-evaluation. Know yourself. Know what makes you tick. Know what makes you ticked off. And, work through that. But also to set limits, to set boundaries for yourself in your use of technology and relationships and all those things. So I think one of the other things that we need to kind of think about and I think is a good sort of way to organize our lives to get past these moments where we're trying to distract ourselves and that kind of stuff is to what my dad, there's some book on productivity or something out there that talks about eating the big frog, and which is like a really weird, but you won't forget it. You
Is
won't
it a
forget it now.
tasty frog?
It might be. I don't know. It's probably not
I
cooked.
like frog legs.
Yeah.
Those are
It's good stuff. So, but the concept is do the hard thing first in the day. So whatever and all the productivity nuts out there that write books about it and all that stuff, a lot of them talk about don't save hard things to the end of the day. Put it at the beginning of the day. Now, for whatever reason, you may not believe that that's what you should do, but I do think that it gives some insight into the fact that we need to put priority on the things that cause us stress, the things that cause us anxiety, and we need to do those things sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Because as we do those things, it sort of opens up freedom for the times that we don't have things that we need to be doing, that we can be investing in other people or other hobbies, things that God's given us, gifts that God's given us.
Yeah. By procrastinating, we're essentially simultaneously adding more stress to our week. into our
Absolutely.
time. And so the more and more that we put into it, the harder and harder
Mhm.
it gets. And I mean, to come full circle for me, like my heart palpitations like stopped after all of my cardiologist visits and everything was kind of finalized. Like the consistent ones that I was having. I mean, I still have the regular ones that I've always had, but like the stressful ones, the ones that were causing anxiety, finally went away, and it was like this weight was off my shoulders because I finally had gotten the news. I knew what was going on. I could put a name on it, and I think that it's not just with health. I think that's with all things. If we'll just do it, eat the big frog or whatever it was, then we don't have to worry about it anymore. We can just focus on the day-to-day, the regular things.
So I think, just doing what you need to do, and taking care of whatever that stressful thing is immediately. And I think that's something to kind of turn it back to you as teenagers. That's something, learn it now. Learn it now. Don't wait. Don't wait until you're 30 years old to learn it. Don't wait till you're 25, 20, 21. Even for younger teenagers, don't wait till you're 17 or 18 and you've got a bazillion things and a job and driving places and leadership opportunities and all this stuff. do it now. Just take whatever thing is stressing you out and just do it. Because if you will kind of hone that skill and be able to do that, one, you'll be able to live with freedom, but two, you really will be able to fight those distractions, to stave off that temptation of the enemy to numb yourself to the world. And quite honestly, it's going to be good for your relationships, because some of those things that stress us out are relationships that need mending that we're not willing to do the work to mend them. Or they are relationships, or sometimes relationships that need to be not cut off, like, I'm out, peace, I'm never coming back kind of things. But at the same time, what's stressing us out is that a relationship doesn't have boundaries.
Yeah.
And somebody is in our territory all the time, and we need to set firm boundaries. And so having those tough conversations, doing those tough things, do it now while you have adults around you that care about you to help you do those things, while you have a youth ministry to support you in those decisions, and all those kind of things, because when you get to the adult world, it really does get a little bit more difficult, because you're a little bit more alone in those situations. And I think that it's the sooner you can get that skill, the better.
Yeah. Well, I think my voice teacher told me in college, if you procrastinate today, you're going to procrastinate tomorrow.
Yep.
And so that's because, growing up, it was like, I'm going to do this when I'm in college. And then you're in college, I'm going to do this when I have a job. And then when you're in a job, you're like, I'll do this when I get my next job.
Yeah.
And it's this endless cycle of procrastination, instead of just saying, hey, I'm going to take care of it today, and then I don't have to worry about it tomorrow anymore.
Absolutely. I mean, anything else you want to throw in there, Dakota?
Nah.
For those of you who this is the first time you're watching this podcast, we have that interaction every single podcast, and I think Dakota's trying to stay creative with his answers.
Let me tell you in Spanish. No.
Well, thanks again for joining us. We hope that this discussion is a blessing to you. There's something that helps you in your walk with Jesus. And know and understand that, like we say every week, we do this because of our own personal relationships with Jesus. We love him. We know that he has the best for us, and he really does have an abundant life for us. It doesn't mean that things are always going to be great, peachy, easy. As we've talked about today, sometimes that relationship, even with Christ, maybe mainly with Christ, calls us to do hard and difficult things that go against our nature and against what we want to do. But we know through experience that they're good, and that he is good, and he wants a good life for us. And we really want to use this podcast to call people to that. And so if you want to have a relationship with Jesus and you don't know how to do that, leave us a comment, send us a message, reach out to us, First Baptist Canyon Lake, whatever way you want to do that. We want to hear from you, and we want to help you grow in that relationship with Christ. So thanks again for joining us, and we will see you next week.
If you get in a car wreck, call the 4s. 444-4444.
4.
I don't know. I wasn't
That
counting.
was 8 numbers.
Jordan's like, I'm out.